Venri Chapter 7. Shepard. Did he really just agree? Not just agree, but use the word definitely? She'd given him a way out, and she was afraid he'd take it, but he hadn't. She'd just done something incredibly stupid. There was no doubt about that. Stupid, definitely. Worth it? Hopefully. She'd run out of there in order to not jump up and down and shout something undignified or actually tackle him. Relief of tension was how he described it. She could work with that. Okay. Now, at least, she had some time to settle her mind. Play it cooler than she'd managed so far, in order to avoid gnawing bits off the man. She had a chilling thought. Oh shit, it would have been really nice if she'd thought of this before she just did what she did. She broke it down logically. She was his commanding officer. He was part of her crew. What if Taurians couldn't turn down sexual requests from superior officers? She damned herself for not knowing much about Taurians in general, and not knowing about this one Taurian specifically. Biting her lips, she opened the comm to him. Garrus? You there? I'm here. Just wrestling with settings. Working out some new upgrades. Once I know something more solid, I'll put in a requisition for materials. Best to take advantage of the Cerberus carrot before it turns into the Cerberus stick. Would you please meet me in my quarters? Of course. I'll be right there after I clean up. She paced until he arrived, flaring a blue aura around herself at intervals. No force, no direction, just a timed summoning of energy. It had been an early drill in her training, and she found it comforting. Biotics practice was as good as a workout for her, something to focus on that wouldn't spin the wheels in her brain too fast. Her reflection in the fish tank was of a small woman, red shoulder-length hair, green eyes, weirdly glowing red scars. Check. Recently dead. Check. There were things she'd done that she couldn't have accomplished without sheer stubborn ramrod intent. Was that what she was doing? Ramrodding Garrus, so to speak? Of course she was. She winced. She couldn't and shouldn't do that to him. His emotional state, his injuries, his everything. He deserved better. Of course he deserved better. That was her problem all along. She felt like collapsing under the weight of her accumulated stupidity. A proximity beep cued to his biometrics let her know he was at the door, and she answered it herself, instead of calling him to let himself in. He stepped past her silently and into the room, seemingly interested in her fish. Now that she had him here, she had no idea what to say. Thought fled, and she chided herself for piling one rash action on top of another. She had to clarify. How to clearly state that I am an idiot. Like he doesn't already know. Words came out of her mouth in a disorganized mess. Dignity not even on the list of things she was doing. Garrus, I asked you... I'm not sure if I asked you for too much. There's a chain of command, and you told a story about reach and flexibility, and I'm afraid my reach may not deserve my grasp, so to speak. He turned his head slowly and looked at her, amused and confused, his head tilted to the side in a universal expression of questioning. She paused a moment, hoping he would somehow understand her garbled delivery, set her at ease. That moment passed, and then the next. No, she was gonna swing on this hook. He was gonna watch. Damn it. I'm wondering if my rank gives me privileges I don't deserve and I shouldn't assume. I'm wondering if because of Turian sensibility, I just ordered you to sleep with me? I really only meant to ask. His mouth plates trembled and her eyes narrowed. He was suppressing laughter. He was enjoying this. She suddenly felt much better. This she understood. She was an idiot, but he knew she was an idiot, and it was okay. She was backed up against the door to her quarters for support as she considered her next move. Unfortunately, she was moveless. She didn't think that freezing like a baby deer was going to get her anywhere, but she thought maybe stopping talking would be a good idea. He turned to face her in a standard parade rest, feet out comfortably to brace his balance, hands behind his back. Was there an actual question in there? He paused and then said in an overly helpful voice that would sound condescending to anyone with working ears, "Need help finding it?" Her lips twitched and she almost spoke, but as she was opening her mouth, he said, "Because if you're ordering me to sleep with you and my Turian honor compels me to do so, I can probably manage it, though I'm not sure. I'm pretty delicate." She tried to formulate another retort, but he started walking toward her slowly. "I've never had a commanding officer command me to do anything of the sort, but serving on a human vessel, I'm willing to accommodate some cultural differences." He stopped very close to her and resumed parade rest again, leaning forward. "Permission to speak freely, Commander?" She pushed against his armor. "Stop being obnoxious." He didn't move from the force of her hands, not a budge. "Not sure I can, ma'am. Turian, you know." Oh, mercy. I've made a mess of it. I'm sorry. This is bloody well new to me. Mercy? For Commander Shepard? Scourge of the... well, scourge of everything. You don't discriminate in your scourging. Or keel-hauling. What is keel-hauling? Is that a human euphemism for something dirty? No, it's what sea captains used to do to crew members who displeased them. Tie them on a long rope and throw them over the side, to be dragged under by the ship's keel and scraped by barnacles until they drowned. I'm not sure if they were ever pulled back up or just left as shark food. Humans are disgusting, so theoretically by the end of the cruise there are 5 or 10 ropes over the side like evil tea bags? I'm against it. Thank you very much for not clarifying. Turians don't command sexual favors. It's strictly voluntary. Well, then, let me ask again, more clearly. Would you volunteer? I would. She smiled in relief, and he tilted his forehead to touch hers. He closed his eyes. We'll find our way, Moram. She closed her eyes against the press of his crest. His plate was cooler than her skin. Body temperature differences were something new, something to know about him, something to learn about him. Say my name again. He leaned forward and pressed his mouth against her neck and said her name, drawing out the word, subvocals purring, the sound caressing her spine. I have never appreciated the M's in my name so much until now. Now I have a question. His mouth was still close to her neck, breathing softly, causing her to shiver. What's your question? I have a theory about your scent. He breathed in, along her throat and collarbone. I know when you're afraid, or if you're angry, or if you're exerted. I know the scent of your skin, sweat, and blood. I could have done with less of your blood. Me too. What's your theory? He paused with his mouth hovering over her collarbone. There's something I haven't been able to identify. I died, you know. Maybe it's cybernetics? No, it's not that. She shivered and stroked her hand over his head, fingertips on his fringe. Can you credit that humans have pheromones and possibly other biological markers of interest? I'd think it was that, but this didn't just start happening. It's stronger now, but She waited, smiling. He caught up. He lifted his eyes to hers. He leaned his hand on the door behind her. So, I have a few variables to consider. Feel free to show your work. This is you wanting me. There's no way that's not fun. Guilty. The surprise is not so much that you want me, considering you just told me. The surprise is how often, and for how long. She held his gaze and raised a brow. Like in the middle of a fight? Only if you're there. Is it my rifle? It's probably my rifle. Turians have pheromones. Does it have to do with the fact that you smell like a combination of cookies and sex? Something like that. Turian men can be interested, but it's the woman that makes the first real move. Then we can reciprocate. Oh, hell, I should have figured that part out. Don't worry. I was aware that you were human. I didn't expect you to know. He tilted his head back, lifted her hand, and guided her nails to the edge of a plate on his shoulders, about where a human collarbone would be. He turned her hand and brushed her nails along the line of her jaw. Oh, that is not fair. Moram, are you okay? Your eyes are... That's how you look when you're gonna faint. I've seen it. It's usually not a good sign. What are your eyes doing? Crossing. My eyes are crossing. Edie chose that moment to say, Commander Shepard, the Illusive Man wishes to speak to you in the conference room. Thank you, Edie. I'll be right there. Let's not die, okay? That would suck. After his briefing, the Illusive Man had the gall to say, I'm concerned that you might be losing your focus, and I need to be sure that you can finish the mission as it stands. Members of your crew may die. Are you willing to make the sacrifices necessary? There are some people I would be okay letting die. There are others that I would give my life to save and consider it an honor. You are on the first list. Indulge your voyeurism quietly. You can't imagine I would ignore information that is important. It's my job. I create important information. That's my job. You can file it anywhere you want. Don't tell me about me again. I understand your investment in this operation. I understand mine. I doubt that. If you come anywhere near my people, and these are my people, I will find you. I will hold you personally responsible for any accident that may happen on my ship. There's a line. Stay on your side of it. I'll go check out the collector ship, and I thank you for the information. Shepard out. Garrus. They'd mucked their way through the collector's ship. He'd become aware very quickly that his restraint was melting off him in rivulets. Now he knew she definitely wanted him. Now he knew she had for a long while. Maybe even she didn't know for how long. It gave him strength. It gave him ferocity. It had been a difficult mission, but he'd felt no fear, only the precise focus of a meaningful fight and a smolder fanning into flame every time he looked at her. After they'd gotten back, he'd started to do some research about human customs, and then he got confused and worried. Turian sex began fast and then got slower. Human sex started slow and then got frantic. His sense of pacing was gone. He could have sworn he heard humans call each other baby, and that was disgusting. He was not going to ask for an explanation unless it came up. Maybe not even then. Turians did not have multiple partners at one time. This seemed to be a common theme in human sex. This was not going to be negotiable, as he was inclined to kill anybody who touched her. He had learned that she, touched others a great deal. Hugs, handshakes, casual arms on shoulders or waists, kisses on the side of the cheek. He'd grown used to it. It was just the way she was. Most people did not touch her casually due to her rank and were vaguely surprised when she did it. He, Joker, and Tally were the only people that had gotten used to it that he'd seen. She'd avoided touching Caden. She didn't want to encourage someone who was attracted to her if she didn't reciprocate. The idea of her touching someone else or someone else touching her sexually made him feel simultaneously infuriated and akin to bleeding out, which was a feeling fresh in his mind. It was something he might have to bear, something he would have to be prepared to endure. What would happen if she expressed, what, versatility? He'd been versatile once. He could understand it intellectually, but every other part of him rebelled at the idea. Could he do it? Could he, for instance, stand behind her and watch if she became interested in Thane, if she became interested in someone else? Would he shoot Thane in the back of the head, accidentally on purpose? He liked Thane a lot, and he suspected he would still shoot him. Thane wasn't an issue. She wasn't attracted to him. She wasn't attracted to Jacob. He was sure of it. However, both of those men would follow her if she crooked a finger their way. She was in his blood, of his blood, and he might have been able to resist killing someone before, but now his hands and his heart considered it his absolute right to do so. Please, Bakan, do not let this issue come up. I would never hurt you, but I would be compelled to hurt someone else. Myself first. I hope it would only be myself, but right now, I can't promise that. And if things go as they're going, it will get worse. This is becoming less of a choice I was willing to make and more of a need deciding my actions for me. He had been taught to treat bonding with respect, but he hadn't been warned about what he was experiencing. It wasn't just a focus on her, which was what he had been warned about. It was everything in focus because of her. He had expected to look at her and love her, which he did, but this was also... Every time he looked at anything else, it had some relationship to her that he had to identify before he could allow it to pass or get near her. He wanted to be a gatekeeper for her, stand physically in front of her at every moment, intercept every threat. She would never allow that. Would he have chosen her if she would allow that? He couldn't imagine her that way, so he accepted that he didn't want to change who she was, just preserve it. He located some human sex that was single partners, and that was less confusing and more encouraging, but still disturbing, in the sense that he had claws, and there was too much unprotected skin. There was a lot to worry about. Too many directions from here ended up with someone in pain or dead. Shepard. Despite the horrors of the collectorship, she felt good. It had been horrible, and she was viciously angry at the Illusive Man, but she was alive, and she'd warned him, so there was nothing else to be done about that. Nothing that she hadn't already been doing and would continue to do. She'd gotten some sleep, and after waking up, she took a long shower and started thinking about what else she might want other than not being tired, not being isolated, and not being worried. Well, not being worried about the next few hours. Waffles sounded like a good addition to that list. She'd already figured out that Gardner didn't know how to make them, so she gathered everything together, and today was going to be a day off. She headed down to the mess and politely requested to commandeer Gardner's station. She promised to trade Waffles for his time. It would really only take up a corner of the space. He could keep doing what he was doing. It would take a while because Waffle Batter had to sit and bask. There was science involved, she knew, but really she just considered it needed to mellow out and be happy, be prepared for the state of waffle worship. Yeah, starch and liquid taking time to come together doesn't sound as happy. Waffles should be happy. It took about an hour for the first batch, but she didn't want to leave them alone, so she just sat at a mess table and did some reading. No reports, no stats, no research. Something to rest the mind and go with Waffles. Something light, puffy, sweet, and new today. Something off the bestsellers list, then. She decided she'd start with the most popular, and if it sucked, she'd work her way down. It took 3 books, but she finally found something fun. She'd brought with her a huge waffle iron that made 4 at a time, made a test batch, and although she screwed those up, by the second round she'd figured out the mechanics and the heat settings enough to think that they would pass inspection. She mixed melted butter and warm maple syrup together and ladled it over the batch generously. She handed out the first few plates to happy reviews, and she started to gather a crowd. Word started to spread, and she dished out more waffle history and waffle plates. Karen came out and started on hers. Morm grabbed a plate and excused herself, went up to the CIC and brought them to Joker. She presented him with the plate. What the hell are those? They look scary. Waffles. You just made that word up. I've seen how jokes like this turn out. No thanks. She sliced off a corner and then ate a bite. I promise they're not poison. If you don't want them, I'll take them back to the rest of the people waiting for more. Wait, whoa. Okay, I might have been hasty. They're whatfuls now? Waffles. Try. He fumbled with them a moment and then took a bite. Okay, that's really weird, but really good. I knew you were smart. Stubborn, but smart. Obviously. She kissed the top of his cap and turned to head back down. Let me know if you want some more. I'll bring those up too. She collected Kelly on her way back down, and when she got back to the mess, Kasumi was making more. Moram observed her doing all the right things and then said, I love delegating to the competent. I watched for a little while. I wouldn't expect any less. I bequeath all my waffle secrets to thee. The tables were full of people, and waffles were a hit. Miranda had some, Jacob had some, Kelly went down to collect Gabby and Kenneth, and there was a full-blown waffle party. Miranda said, I've never heard of these. What is the brown stuff? Syrup. Maple syrup. It's from tree sap. Now that I think of it, Caden would really like to have some waffles. Canada is the traditional home of maple syrup. Jacob said, He missed out. I'll have his. Stories were told about people's favorite foods. And Moram happily listened to someone's grandmother's favorite recipe, or the little corner restaurant nobody else knew about. She discovered that Jack loved cookies, and gave her a thumbs up. She should get the stuff to make chocolate chip cookies. Maybe she could convince Jack to lick the spoon. Garrus came out to investigate the noise and stood behind her chair. What's this about? Waffles! Vintage earth food. How to describe them? The waffle itself is made from a grain source that's been pulverized. Flour mixed with milk and eggs. Milk is the fluid a mother cow makes to feed her baby cows, and eggs are the encapsulated offspring of chickens. That is all mixed together and then solidified by heat. Then on top is butter, which is the milk with most of the liquid removed and only the fat remaining. Then the maple syrup is tree sap that's boiled down until it's concentrated. Garrus nodded through that and then said, That sounds disgusting. I mean, really, really disgusting. I have to create a new level of disgusting just to give it a classification. Yeah, I'm afraid something's lost in translation. They're crunchy and soft and sweet. What is sweet, by the way? There's no Turian equivalent. Huh. Well, a human tastes a few things. Salty, sweet, bitter, and sour. Salty, bitter, and sour, I get. Weird. Well, sweet is... Really? You don't have sweet? The word means a few different things for humans, I think. There's flavor, and then it can also describe other things, moods, or feelings. Yes. Okay, well, our bodies run on calories, and we get those mostly from sugars and fats. Sugars I get. Alcohol and plant derivatives, lots of chemical sugars. Turians eat the proteins and the fats. Sugars provide the sweet? Yes, for us, bitter and sour are accents to flavor, but not necessarily our favorites. We crave salt, and salt tastes good, but sugar and sweet, well, many humans crave that over other things. We say they have a sweet tooth. Eat too much, though, and you get fat. Granulated sugar or things like maple syrup, they're intensely sweet. Then we mix it with other flavors, and it tastes amazing. So the waffle here is something that's bland, but soaks up the flavor of the syrup. Apart, they aren't as good as they are together. The waffle provides the texture, and the syrup provides the sweet. So it isn't necessarily good for us, but we want it anyway. Turians can't taste sweet, but we have a craveable component to what we eat. What do you call it? He leaned over, spoke near to her ear. Suntkan. It means something like necessary. So for us, there's really only one source of life, of pleasure. The other flavors, salty, sour, and bitter, can accent it, but we can't live on those. Even our versions of alcohol are fermented sources of Suntkan. They're one and the same, and it's all good for us. So for a Turian, there's no sense of being divided or torn between what we need and what we want. You're talking about food, right? Of course I am, and we've clarified that your food is disgusting, so my work is done here. Garrus went to go talk to Zaid, who was on his third plate. Garrus. Zaid had been absolutely no help about human customs. Relying on his recommendations was not something he'd be doing without supervision and consent. He was going to have to get advice from several different sources and triangulate because it all sounded improbable. He'd seen enough in bars to know alcohol was part of it. They couldn't drink the same things, but they could keep up with their tradition. He'd bring a bottle, she'd bring a bottle, same as after Vermeer and since. Comforting to have a solution already in place. Comfort. Seductions shouldn't begin with, I hope I don't kill you. Moram came in to see him, and his nervousness was at its peak. She smiled and raised a brow. He closed the door behind her, shrugged, and said, "Yeah, I've been thinking about what we talked about. Blowing off steam, easing tension. Are we crazy to even be thinking about this?" She shrugged. "Yes." "Right. Crazy is really the standard, isn't it? I've really never been able to try a non-crazy environment for long." "You sure you don't want something a little closer to home that won't, for instance, cause an allergic reaction that might kill you?" "I don't want something closer to home. I want you. I want someone I can trust." "All right. You don't want to run screaming? I can do that. I'll find some music and do some more research to figure out how this should work. It'll either be a night to treasure or a horrible interspecies awkwardness thing. In which case, fighting the collectors will be a welcome distraction, so, a win either way." "Shepard." She pressed her lips together. "You know, Garrus, if you're not comfortable with this, it's okay. I'm not trying to pressure you." Then she noticed she'd stepped closer and put her hands on him, so mixed signals. She suspected she was lying. Screw suspected, she was lying. Garrus leaned forward, took her hand in his. "Moram, you're about the only friend I've got left in this screwed-up galaxy. I'm not going to pretend I've got a fetish for humans, but this isn't about that. This is about us. You don't ever have to worry about making me uncomfortable. Nervous, yes, but never uncomfortable. So when should I book the room?" "I'd wait, if you're okay with it. Disrupt the crew as little as possible, and take that last chance to find some calm just before the storm. You know me. I always like to savor the last shot before popping the heatsink." "Wait, that metaphor just went somewhere horrible." There are times when I really want to reach up and muss your hair, and I can't." "I'll let you get back to work." "Right, because I'm in a great place to optimize firing algorithms right now." Timeline. Dossier. Tally. Shepard. Moram had truly had it with Jack's bullshit, right up to where she was drowning in it. Geth were closing in from every direction, and the sun was trying to kill them, and Jack still could not keep her shit together. She was busy grandstanding. Moram shouted at her, "Keep your ass behind cover!" Jack acted as though she didn't hear her. "Keep your ass behind cover, Jack!" She knew Jack heard her that time, but her only reaction was a snarl. Those were all the chances Jack got. She said in a quiet tone that could still be heard, but just barely, "Get your ass behind cover, or I will knock you on it myself." Jack continued to ignore her and continued to stand on top of what she should be behind. Moram and Garrus were busy picking off the people that were aiming at Jack as she presented a huge, loud target. Moram stopped covering for her. Jack was shot twice and still didn't back down. Moram traded a look with Garrus, and then he stopped covering for Jack and started picking off the other targets. Moram took down 2 more until there were only 2 remaining, both shooting at Jack, and Jack's attacks started going wild. She nodded at Garrus again, indicating he was on his own. He nodded back. Moram stood up, knocked Jack off her perch with a shockwave, and sent her sprawling. Someone was still shooting at Jack, and she saw Jack scramble and panic, but Jack's instincts drove her toward her target instead of back to safety. Moram knocked her forward one more time, sending her flat against a wall, the breath taken out of her. Panic shot through Jack's expression. Moram had taken no damage, so she could afford some grandstanding of her own. Moram stood her ground as Jack scrambled back up, her back to the wall, trying to decide whether to take out Moram or take out her target. Garrus took his final shot, and the target went down. Jack's eyes swung back to Moram, and there was a wash of confusion, panic, and fury on her face. Jack snarled at her and looked as if she were about to wind up to hit back. But Moram held up one finger, and there was the distinct click of Garrus's rifle. Jack looked back and forth between the two of them frantically. "Look, just because the two of you are fucking..." Moram dropped her hand. "Fucking? Garrus, are we fucking? Does inside my head count?" "Or inside mine? Yeah, that probably counts. Okay, Jack, we're practically fucking." Jack was confused, and Moram drew out the silence, clarifying that Jack had no response. "Fucking's not something I'm ashamed of doing, Jack. I wouldn't be ashamed to fuck Garrus. I wouldn't be ashamed to fuck you, Jack. Oh, please don't put that image in my head, ever again. What I do is love Garrus, Jack. I love him. Fucking is a small subset of that. I'm not ashamed of loving him either. You need to decide some things. I've tolerated your bullshit because most of the time, so far, the stuff we've faced has been relatively easy. Garrus and I are accustomed to doing things on our own because, just like you, lots of people who came before you were unconscious, while Garrus and I did the heavy lifting. But it's getting harder out here, Jack. We might get to the point where we need you behind cover and not in some dramatic heap of tattoos and rage. Fuck you, Shepard. Look, Jack, I love you too, but fucking is not going to be a small subset of that. Glad to hear it. Listen, Subject Zero. You were raised to lash out, drugged and confused. You told me narcotics hit your veins when you attacked. I don't need that. The assholes that raised you needed that. Jack made a lunge for her, and Moram knocked her back again. Do you see this? You keep wanting to run at me, and I keep putting you down because I am a ranged weapon. That's what you should be. I use my head, I use my environment, and I do not have narcotics or tingles flooding my veins. What I have is God's damned fucking sanity, and I need you to tear a chunk of that out of your perfectly serviceable head and get your shit together. You are in trouble right now, because although you are strong, you are passionate, and you are powerful, you are alone. You don't work with us as a team. You let those fuckers who raised you in hell get into your head, and I need them out. Now. You're on your ass, and Garrus and I have you at our mercy because we're smart and we're sane, and we have no more leeway for you to work out your issues on the bad guys. You want to mock love. You want to mock loyalty. You want to mock me for indulging in those things? Love is what has kept me alive. Except when you died. Shut up, Garrus. You weren't there. It didn't count. It counts. Okay, love has mostly kept me alive. I plan on it continuing to keep me alive. You are my crew, Subject Zero, and I love you like a dysfunctional adopted child who's gonna set my house on fire, and I have had it with watching you try to kill yourself in some misguided attempt to prove you're not afraid to die. I need to see that you are not afraid to live. You will accept that both Garrus and I will cover for you, and might even die for you, with you, if you can't be part of a team. We have given that to you, but before I take your ass into another horrifying place, I need to know that you will not lose your shit. You have 3 choices. You can attack me, and I can knock you back into the sun here and keep you there until you fry. It would be very dramatic. You could go to your death with that victim mentality you cling to, being betrayed as you always expected. I can drop you off at whatever hellhole you want. You can reenact Subject Zero fantasies of rebellion and power until the Reapers come and kill you. That would be very pathetic and a huge waste of potential. Or you can stay behind fucking cover, retool your passion and power to preserve yourself and not prove that you're a badass every second. We know you're a badass. You wouldn't be here if you weren't a badass. You don't belong to me. Rebelling against me for the sake of rebellion is bullshit because I'm on your side. Give yourself back to yourself, Jack, and help us out here. Make your choice. Jack spent some time with her head tilted back, eyes closed, and neck muscles straining. Well, shit, Shepard. You could have just told me to stay behind cover. Morm stepped to Jack and offered her a hand. Jack took it and stood up. I don't have to make waffles or some shit, do I? No. Maybe cookies. Voluntary. Garrus interjected. I don't have to hug her, do I? Not necessary. Both Jack and Garrus made relieved sounds. When you guys do start fucking, watch your ass, Garrus. She's mean. You have no idea. I love you guys. Shepard. Moore met Tally down in engineering and looped her arms around her shoulders. Tally, love, I have missed you. I can't even tell you how much. Are you feeling all right? No damage from Haystrom? Tally turned the loop into a full hug. I've missed you too. I'm so sorry I didn't come with you. Moram backed out of the hug and held up a hand. It's forgotten. If I'm allowed to be dead for 2 years, you're allowed to take some time to finish up previous commitments. You weren't allowed to be dead for 2 years, just so you know. I'll try really, really hard not to do it again. So you're retiring? Hopefully. Eventually. Come on, let's go take a walk on Ilium. She and Tally swung by to pick up Garrus, and they docked. Once they had landed, Moram pointed to her Omni-tool. Garrus disabled his own while she disabled hers, and Tally disabled her own without asking why. Moram threw her arms around both of them, and Garrus said, She's gonna cry. I wouldn't mind. Moram hugged Tally tighter. He's just jealous. I am sometimes. Crying seems horrible, and then kind of nice. It's the endorphins. My brain takes pity on me eventually. Tally, I'm glad you're here, beyond the fact that your life expectancy is shorter. If Shepard hadn't come to Haystrom, I'd have no life expectancy. I knew you could get into trouble all on your own. Come on, let's go get a drink. They headed over to Eternity and settled in with their orders. Moram said, Tally, welcome to Who's Gonna Screw Us Over First, our 3-person production. Yes, there are other cast members, but their backstories are troublesome, if not insomnia-inducing. What can I do? Do you need me to watch anybody? Set surveillance? Normally, I'd say yes, but this isn't normally. I assume that I'm the main target for surveillance, and Garrus, and now you, are secondary in priority. I don't want to appear to be doing anything underhanded. I trust the majority of the crew to get the job done, but my main concern is the Illusive Man, and we can't bug his office. If the 3 of us here know enough to keep strategy on the Normandy, I'm assuming that with Cerberus having 2 years to plan a covert operation on a huge ship, they'll outstrip my little ability to keep up with them. Surveillance would be high risk, low probability of success, which normally would be my thing, but in this case, it would put you or Garrus directly in the way of provoking an accident if you found anything before you could tell me. I'd prefer it if you spent your time on upgrade ideas because that has a clearer payoff than sorting through hours of Jacob snoring and scratching his ass. Is Jacob a concern? Everyone's a concern if they're not sitting at this table. Well, maybe not Dr. Chakwas, maybe not Joker. They're both doing their intended jobs, and I'm not paranoid enough to think that Karen or Jeff have been subverted in any way. I just think they're window dressing. I think they were given an opportunity to do what they are good at doing, and they're doing it. Same goes for everyone at this table. I've done what I can to analyze the technical aspects of the ship, but most of it's locked down by EDI and protocol. and I can't access it. I doubt they'd have recommended that I recruit you if you could crack their security. Counterproductive. What I'm concerned about mostly is that Cerberus on the whole, or the Illusive Man, or key members of the crew are indoctrinated. That's the most insidious problem. And we have no way of knowing, except to watch to see if the guy starts to suddenly sprout upgrades like Saren, and that's unlikely. Okay, I'll do what I can. Anybody I should worry about? Shepard's brought me out with her on every trip so far. I really haven't seen anything suspicious beyond being an asshole or being generally homicidal, but that's not a drawback here. Gavi and Kenneth are just doing their jobs. I don't think they're doing anything except what they say they are doing. I agree with you. I started with Miranda and Jacob, and so I'm most suspicious of them. That suspicion is purely situational, but I think I can rely on Miranda to keep me alive, as that has been her pride and joy, and I do think Jacob is just doing a job he believes in. Zaid got off to a rocky start, but he's under the homicidal umbrella, along with Jack. Zaid is good at what he does. Jack needs some tempering, but she's just one of my favorite people. I like her. She's a bit like Rex. Yeah. Kasumi is steady-handed, and I think she'll see this through. Samara is devoted to my cause. Though she did say she'd have to kill you later if you make her do the wrong things. Ha! Yeah, but we both have to be alive for that to happen, and I also have to release her from my service or something. Either way, she's in for the big mission. I think she can be trusted to do that. Thane is probably my best pick for teamwork, Tally, beside you, who would be my first. Thank you. Good to know I'm appreciated. You are so appreciated. Garrus and I have been huddled in a corner whispering alone. It's nice to widen the circle. Morden is crazy, but he's crazy in a dedicated way that kept us from getting our asses paralyzed by the swarmers, so I like him. Grunt, well, he's a problem. He's going slowly rabid down there. He doesn't even know what the problem is. But the problem has nothing to do with Reapers or indoctrination, I hope. It's probably going to take a trip to Tuchanka. Everybody has needed something done to wrap up their worldly travails, and even Garrus got a deal. No offense, Garrus. None taken. My crazy is stowed away. So far, I've got nothing I need except another drink. Well, everybody's gotten a free pass to some sort of crazy, so feel free if your number comes up. Once again, you two are the best friends I could have ever hoped or dreamed to have. I'm sorry that means I might get you killed. I'll do everything I can to keep that from happening. Tally took her hand. We'll get it done. She's a beautiful ship, and I have some ideas. We'll get her ready for the dance. As long as I don't have to do any actual dancing. Could get ugly. Could get funny. Could get not gonna happen.